Beloved Son, you remain as I have created you to be. You are loved. You are wholly loving and wholly lovable forever. Hello friends, in this video we're talking about Lesson 7 in the Way of the Heart. Now, this is a series of videos I'm doing of Jesus' path to enlightenment, because these books are Jesus' channel that reestablish his teachings. They're all part of the Way of Mastery, which is 3 books. And these are all by JON MARC HAMMER, or Jayem. Lesson 7 goes over many different topics, but the main idea is illusion or fear. Love you, therefore, one another. And love you, therefore, the self that has been given unto you of the Father. Learn to hear only that voice. Learn to desire only that voice. Learn to follow only that voice that knows the truth is true always. I and my Father are one, and this world is but a passing shimmer in a dream. It holds no value save that which Christ can bring to it. Only love is real, and anything else is the choice to momentarily believe in illusion. So in his perspective, nothing is of value except love, except this realization of your true self, which is the true self within everything, within everyone. And since you are as you were created to be, and since you are already perfect, what is blocking us from realizing this? What is getting in our way? And he tells a little parable. He says, in a remote region of a forest where no one has been before, on this morning a blade of grass suddenly cast a little shadow on a rock beside it, and no one noticed. None of the universe. God didn't notice. No human noticed. It went totally unnoticed, very insignificant. And he says that little shadow is your fear, and you choose to give that all power. So much power you give it that you feel like it will crush you if you do the wrong thing. And he gives this parable to show the laughability of how little it is, of how insignificant it is compared to what we truly are. And yet we are so powerful that since we give it the power, it becomes this huge daunting thing, which is fear. It seems to rule our life, and it makes us seem separate, and it creates all these illusions just from that one tiny shadow. That little shadow is what you have given power to, and it seems to be able to obstruct the truth within you from being lived. For the moment, you gave that little tiny shadow power. In that very moment, fear was born. And fear is always a contraction away from love. And fear makes you smaller than the blade of grass that momentarily seems to cast a shadow and, therefore, obstructs your recognition of the warmth of the sun that bathes you always. And if you can truly take this story into your being and recognize the utter laughability of such a belief, you will never again fear fear. Through this story, he's trying to show us how insignificant, how tiny this illusion of separation is that we create, and this fear is that we create. And it reminds us it is our choice. Do we want love, or do we want fear? Do we want all of creation, or do we want this mimicry, this illusion, this dream of separation? The great question is, are you going to let the shadow lead, or are you going to lead? When your life becomes that, I am not speaking of perfection as you would consider this. When your life becomes that motivation, that attitude, that declaration, and that devotion, then perfection will be witnessed through you. For perfection is miracle-mindedness, in which that which saves time occurs. And when your life becomes that, when you no longer have any conflicted commitment in your beingness, you will know exactly what the result of my life was for me, because you will be that. And then he goes on to remind us that happiness cannot be found outside of us, and tells us stop looking for love outside of us in relationships and things and outer things. It is within us. Happiness is an inside job, he says, which I like. As long as there is a trace of energy within you in which you are striving to get from any perceived thing or object around you what you are sure you lack inside yourself, you cannot know the love of self, and you cannot experience freedom. Happiness is an inside job. Then he goes on to say, when Christ is really birthed within you, or when you realize your true self, your full potential, when you remember what you truly are, this one identity which is within everything, the love, light, vibration, whatever you wish to call it. In these books, in his terminology, he says Christ, but it's just the true expression of the Creator through everything, the remembrance of that connection. What happens when that is remembered? And he reminds us that when that happens, nothing is unacceptable. What happens when that really occurs? First, and listen well, nothing will be unacceptable to you. For what you cannot accept you will judge, and every judgment is the attempt to murder what you have decided has no right to be. And he also says, when this Christ is birthed within you, or when you remember your true self, or what you really are, the last fear to be overcome is death. Because when you are confronted with truth, when it is realized within you, you realize all your old creations or dreams must fall away, must die. The most root or fundamental of fears possible. What is that? It is the last to be overcome, the fear of death. For when you are confronted by the truth, you know that everything you have sought to create as a substitute for the truth must die. That is why it is said, the last to be overcome shall be death, fear of death. Death is allowed that Christ might live. And at the end he comes again to love and discusses love and says that is the ultimate choice. You must surrender to love. You must let everything else die to love, because everything else is illusion. Nothing will bring you happiness, nothing else matters, but your commitment to love. For love is indeed patient and kind. Love is not deluded, and love does not allow delusion. Love embraces all things, trusts all things, allows all things, and knows perfectly well where it's going, and never ceases in that journey until every blade of grass is released from casting shadows, and the whole of creation is returned to the heart of God. The Way of Mastery, all the 3 books, and other books by Jayem are all available free online at womlibrary.com. And this is all part of a series that go over each of the lessons of each of the books, so check out the next one, Lesson 8. Thank you.